All right, what up, guys? We're doing test review here. So remember, this is not a required thing, but if you get it done, you're ready for the test, and you'll feel good about yourself. And if there is a curve, then you will get those extra points. So let's start doing it. Find h of 6 plus g of negative 6 plus g of negative 6. When you do that, what you're going to be doing is it means that this x here has become a negative 6, so that x there needs to become a negative 6. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to take that h of negative 6, and that's going to be 2, and the x becomes a negative 6. Note how I use those parentheses. Very important for that next one, actually. Minus 1. 2 times negative 6 is negative 12 minus 1. You get negative 13. Remember, you can use a calculator to do that kind of instantly if you don't want to do any of that by hand. And now we have to do that g of negative 6. And that's going to be negative 6 squared plus 3. Be so careful with those parentheses because negative 6 times negative 6 is 36. Not negative 36. So be very careful. Anyways, you get 39. The problem actually wants you to add these two together. So you're doing negative 13 plus 39, which is, in fact, 26. All right. Number 2, find g of f of 7. So when it does this, you always want to start with the inside. So you want to start with this inside part. So you're going to find what f of 7 is first. So f of 7 means that we're going to make that x a 7 there. Plus 5. 7 squared is 49. 49 plus 5 is 54. So f of 7 is 54. That means that this guy right here is g of 54. Because f of 7 is 54, so we can just replace it right away. To actually get to our final answer, g of 54, that means we're going to plug 3 times 54, which should be 162 as our final answer. All right, keep the ball rolling on to number 3. So this one has that weird notation, the small o function composition notation. So what that means is that we are plugging and returning this into, I don't know why I said plugging and returning. We are turning this guy into parentheses around it means g of negative 3. So just like the previous question, we need to take that inside part first and do that. So g of negative 3 is going to be 3 times negative 3 plus 5, which is negative 9 plus 5, which is negative 4. Which means that our answer here, g of negative 3, is g of negative 4, because that inside here is equal to negative 4. So to get our final answer here, g of negative 4, that's going to be 3 multiplied by negative 4 plus 5. That's negative 12 plus 5, negative 7. All right, number 4. So number 4, exact same concept as those previous two questions, but this time we have all letters. So the inside here is h of x. So we have g of, and now we're going to write what h of x is. X cubed plus 5x squared. And if you're struggling with a question like this one here, you don't know what to do with the next step, a good idea is to simply leave a blank spot where you saw the x's, like so. So the idea here, there was an x there, so I have a blank spot. There was an x there, now I have a blank spot. And I'm just going to slot that x cubed plus 5x squared into that blank slot. And now we simplify. Negative 4 x cubed minus 20 x squared plus 3. Boom, boom, boom. We have only a few more to go. Well, 11 more to go. A few more in my mind. All right, describe the transformations necessary. And it looks like my printer decided to not work correctly. Isn't that wonderful? Look at this. What is this? Mr. Printer. All right, there's that. And then the dotted line is this. All right, well, point is the original one was the cubic function, and this one has been moved over. Precisely, it's gone 2 to the right and 2 up. So we call that a translation. 2 units right and 2 units up. That's all I got to say. You could also say shift instead, maybe translation. Now put the other word shift here. Remember, we can use that. You also just say move. I'm not particular about that word, but they all kind of mean the same thing. All right. This write g of x in terms of f of x. So again, here's that original one. And here's that dotted line. So remember to read those directions. So this, when it says this, it is asking us for an answer that looks like this, where we have the a times f of b times x plus c plus d. So you really got to figure out what all those letters are, and that's what the answer is looking for. So you don't need to write answer with absolute value. Yes, absolute value is what that is, but that's not what it's asking for. You know, it's looking for this answer with the g's and the f's with that wording. So it has reflected over the x-axis. We can shorthand to say rx, and it has moved 2 units down. We can shorthand with a little arrow that r of x reflected there means that a is -1, and that moving down 2 means that d is -2. And arrow that reflection because it's over the x-axis, so it was pointing up, now it's pointing down, and that little sharp point there has been moved 2 units down. And we can safely give us an answer here. We can say g of x is equal to negative. You don't need to write the 1 for multiplication. There is no b or c, -2. But if you put a -1, that's fine. All right, here we go. Number 7. Again, read the question, describe the transformations necessary. So we just need to figure out what these letters are. It turns out this guy in front's the A being a -1. You can't really read that. A is a -1. And this right here is a D is a +3. So writing out the full words this time, we have a reflection over the x-axis, and we have a translation 3 units up. Wonderful. Keeping it going. So problem number 8, sketching the graph. So we actually have to do that whole graph sketching thing. Reminder that there are multiple ways to do this. There is the visual method, and then there is the numbers method. I'm going to do the number method for number 8 and the visual method for number 9, so you have the opportunity for both of them. I do think the number method is easier to get full credit because it has, you know, that perfect kind of answer. Where you can actually just play connect the dots. So I kind of recommend the number method on the test, but if the visual method is the one that makes sense to you, there's nothing wrong with that. So I'm going to do both. Here we go. G of x here, we're doing that number method for the first one. So the first thing we have to do is identify the parent function, and that's going to be x squared. And we also need to identify the original table. So the original table, we have x, and we have f of x, and the original table is -2 and 4, -1 and 1, 0 and 0, 1 and 1, 2 and 4. You're going to want to have your notes for that one for sure, or you could just, you know, plug them in, you know, -2 squared is 4, -1 squared is 1, so on and so forth. And now we have x and g of x. And how do we figure out what x and g of x are? We have to figure out what the letters are. This guy right here is a being a -1. This guy right here is c being a -3. So that's really bad, -1. There it is. All right. So a is -1, c is -3. A always means multiply and divide, just like the letter B. It also means always affect the y values. So because that a is a -1, we're multiplying all of these values by a -1. And for the x values, well, it says c here is, I don't know why I wrote -3, it's +3. Whoops. So c is +3, but it does the opposite of what you think, so it means subtract 3. That's probably what my brain was doing. It was preparing to subtract 3, so we had to multiply all these on the right here by a -1, but we are subtracting 3 over here. So -5, -4, -3, -2, -1. Okay, so we have all these coordinates, and that was the ones we're going to put down. So we have a -5, comma -4. That's going to be right here. We have a -4, -1. We have a -3, comma 0, -2, -1, and -1, -4. So now when you play connect the dots, it's really easy to just create that exact perfect little picture there of that parabola or that frowny face. For this one, you're going to notice it's not going to be as easy to create the perfect picture because we're going to be doing it visually, but you'll still able to get most of the credit or full credit as long as it's a reasonable graph. So here we have the letter b is -1 because our original function is f of x is equal to the square root of x, which generally has this shape. And so b is -1 and d is -1. I'm going to write that down here actually. B is -1 and d is -1. This is a reflect over the y-axis. And this guy over here is going to be a going down by 1 unit. So you're going to take this graph and it's going to be pointing off to the left instead. And it's going to go down 1 unit. Just to have a perfect start, we know it starts right here and it's going to go off to the left. I know the coordinates kind of off the top of my head just to do them precisely. You do not need to know them at all to be this perfect, but if you wanted to make it look perfect, it would look just like that. If you had anything similar to that, I'd be giving full credit for it. Probably should be a little bit more curvy at the start, to be honest, but whatever, good enough for me. Here we go, number 10. So identify the parent function. How can you do that if it's not even drawn? It's really, really hard to see, but it is right here. For some reason, my printer is not cooperating with me at all recently. All right, here we go. There it is. So the original function is going to be the cubic function. F of x is going to be x cubed. And the original guy has been moved over to the right by 3 and looks like down by 3 as well. So to the right by 3 and down by 3. So right 3 and down 3. That means that c is equal to -3. Careful with that guy. D is equal to -3 as well. So our g of x is equal to x minus 3 cubed minus 3. Keep it moving. We're so close to done. We're 2/3 of the way. Number 11, f of x is equal to the absolute value of x. So we need to transform and write the resulting function. So we need a g of x is equal to reflect across the x-axis. That means a is -1. Translate up 1 unit means that d is +1. So we have negative of that absolute value of x and add 1 to it. And we are all done. Very cool. Let's finish up here on the old test questions. So here's our peer review part of the exam. Just making sure we remember that stuff from the beginning of the year because it will come back. So we're going to add 6 to both sides here to start. 6, 10 minus m, and the absolute value is equal to 54. Divide both sides by 6. So we have 10 minus m equals 9. So the reason why we did those couple of steps there is because we were trying to get the absolute value alone. So absolute value all alone, and then we're splitting it up into 2 separate questions. 10 minus m is equal to 9. 10 minus m is equal to -9. Subtract 10 on both sides. -m is equal to -1, so m is equal to 1. And over here, subtract 10 on both sides, and we got -m is equal to -19. So m is equal to +19. Gorgeous. We're so close to finish. Let's finish it up. We got this 8 plus 4. Be very careful here. This is 4 times. You cannot multiply that first. You got to subtract this 8. So don't be trying to add right away. That was going to give you, it's going to get you wrong there. So 4 times that 2 minus m less than or equal to 12. By the way, don't forget there's the other way of doing it where you make this guy like an x or something. You're always allowed to do that, or a u or some other letter. Anyways, continuing on, divide both sides by 4. And we have 2 minus m is less than or equal to 3. Anytime you have a question that's like this, we have to split it into 2 again. So we have 2 minus m less than or equal to 3. And then 2 minus m is greater than or equal to -3. And then because there is, that less than there, this creates an and situation. We'll start by subtracting 2 here on both questions, actually. So you got -m less than or equal to 1, negative m greater than or equal to negative 5. Multiply both sides by a negative 1 means you flip the direction of the sign. So we have m less than or equal to 5. Don't forget the and it wants us to graph this inequality. So finalize our graph here, we have a negative 1 there. We got a 5 there. Filled in circle, and comes together. Beautiful. Number 14, write the solution to these inequalities in interval notation. So we're going to go ahead and subtract 8 on both sides of the equation. 6m greater than 0. Divide both sides by 6, and we got m greater than 0. And then we have the word or again, and we're going to go ahead and subtract 1 on both sides. You got negative 2m greater or equal to 18. Divide both sides by negative 2. M less than or equal to negative 9, and it wants us to write it in interval notation. The easiest way to do interval notation is to first create the graph for it. So we're going to put down the 0, we're going to put down the negative 9. Greater than 0 means this way, less than or equal to negative 9 means that way. To actually create that interval notation, remember you want to put the infinity and the negative infinity down, and then write the answer. So negative infinity, comma, negative 9 with a bracket, u, parentheses O, comma, infinity. Boom, boom, boom. Always parentheses on those infinities. Parentheses for the open circle. Bracket for that filled in dot. All done. Number 15. So we have a distributive property. Negative 4 minus 6 is equal to negative 18x plus 21 minus 2x. All right. Add like terms on the right hand side. So it's going to be negative 20x plus 21. We're going to go ahead and add 6 to both sides here. We're going to go ahead and add 20x to both sides here. You know, we're doing a little switcheroo thing. The negative comes over there, positive goes over there. Regardless, you're going to have 16x is equal to 27. Divide both sides by 16 and you are finished. 27 over 16 is your final answer. I have no idea what the decimal for that is, and I'm not going to try to figure it out right now. That is the end of it. Have a wonderful rest of your day, guys. Good luck on this test, and peace out.